Hi, I'm Dr. Professor Alex Rama Zachariah, originally from India, now settled in Urbana, Illinois, along with my wife, also a doctor and professor, Prema Zachariah. You have already met David Krabiel and his wife Ruth, and we already had 3 shows on International Students Incorporated. And so today we have with David, Abraham and Ophelia from Ghana.
Yeah, and as we mentioned last time, the University of Illinois attracts students from around the world, and it's amazing the number of students that come. Last fall, we have the statistics, there were 2,678 new students. This year, my guess is that there's probably even more new students arriving who have arrived in the last month or so. At the University of Illinois from around the world, largely from China, but many other countries, India as well as a major country. But also in addition to that, we have visiting scholars, visiting professors that are coming in. Approximately 2,000 of those come in each year. And those are that's the group that we spend the most time with. But today we have friends of mine from Ghana. And I'll have them tell you where Ghana is. But Abraham, when you, we first met in 2010, and we met at Twin City Bible Church. Abraham came to the church, and I was introduced to him, and we became good friends since then. So. Abraham, why don't you tell us a little bit about when you first arrived and some of the surprises that you faced and things like that?
I arrived here in 2010, as David just said, August 2010. I wouldn't say there were a bit of struggles or challenges at the beginning, especially coming from a culture that is completely different from what we have here in the United States. I wasn't sure what to expect when I was coming. And so one thing I didn't do is to define or have a list of expectations, because usually when I'm traveling outside the country or outside my home, I try as much as possible not to define expectations so that if it goes either way, I don't get surprised. So I try to keep it cool, trust God, and go out there, trusting that everything will go very well. And
you sound me like Abraham. He was called out of the land of
Ur of the Chaldees.
Yes, and he just went out trusting God.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the same mentality I came here with. And initially, yes, settling in was a bit of a challenge, but when I got here, I would say God had prepared the ground for me. And my advisor was very welcoming. He picked me up from the airport, and the next day he took me around, grocery shopping and registration. So right from the start, I felt at home, that my advisor was very welcoming. And then a week later, I went to TCBC, or Twin City Bible Church. Then I met David and Ruth Krabiel. And then since then, we've become really good friends, and they are more than a family to us, actually, or to me. Yeah.
And how did you happen to meet this lovely young lady to your right here?
Yeah, that's...
He came as a single man.
Exactly. Yeah. In 2008, when I came here, I was a single man, but actually I was engaged to Ophelia, and I met Ophelia in Ghana, and we fellowship the same church. I mean, we attend the same church, and so we jokingly say, Bible says we should watch and pray. As we pray, we should watch. And so I usually tell people when I was praying in church, I was watching. And so I saw Ophelia, and we started out as good friends, and we became really good friends, and one thing led to another. We got engaged and finally got married.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, why don't you tell us where Ghana is based on the continent of Africa?
Right. Ghana is located on the west coast. So it's in West Africa. It's on the west coast of West Africa, exactly. Yeah.
And what is your area of study? Why did you come here to the United States?
I am studying crop sciences, and I've had a passion for agriculture all my life. I grew up on a research station. My dad works at the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana, and so I had always seen scientists or researchers in agriculture, and I had that passion all along to be in agriculture and be able to develop varieties of crops and more or less be able to feed my community, be able to feed Ghana, be able to feed the African continent and the world at large. And so after my undergrad studies in the University of Ghana in agriculture, I looked around and I talked to professors and other scientists in Ghana about where could I go possibly for grad school in terms of to go and study plant breeding. And they said, well, plant breeding, you need to go to the US. Now, the US, there are tons of schools or universities. And so where do you go to? And the U of I came up as one of the top universities. And so I put in an application after taking my GRE exams, and God was very faithful. I was able to get into the U of I for my grad studies.
Yeah. And with the cocoa plant, the cocoa tree, normally or historically it took several years before you actually got the cocoa bean.
Yes.
But now because of advancements in agriculture,
Yes.
why don't you tell a little bit more of the story?
Right. So historically, I mean, it takes about 5 or 6 years before you, after planting, before you get the first harvest. And even that, you usually get low harvest. And so it will take you about 7 to 8 years before you begin to get good harvest. But research or breeding in Ghana has been able to reduce this to about 1.5 years. That when you plant, it's a tree crop, cocoa is a tree crop, but when you plant these newer varieties that we have, within 1.5 years, you're able to get good beans, good harvest that will bring you good money, and farmers are always happy. These newer varieties, we call them akokrabedi in the local parlance, and akokra means the old man. So it means the old man will eat. So akokra is old man, bedi is eat. So if it's akokra bedi, irrespective of your age, how old you are, you can still plant this variety and harvest something, get some revenue from it before you maybe die or something like that. Yeah.
You know, Abraham, that explains it. You know, I come from a state in India, the southernmost state, called Kerala. That's a rainforest country, almost like Ghana. And about 20 years ago, when I visited there from North India, where both my wife and I worked, I saw a lot of cocoa plants. Ooh. And I saw these huge beans. I've never seen a cocoa plant before. So the Kerala went in a big way in planting this, what you have produced in Ghana, and many became rich because very rich soil, yes. And as I told you, it's a rainforest country. That explains it.
Yeah. Exactly. And so actually, Ghana is one of the leading exporters of cocoa.
Exactly, yes. Ghana is currently the number 2. The Ivory Coast is number 1, but we are looking forward to beating them very soon, becoming number 1 in the near future.
And I remember, Abraham, when you were engaged and you were planning your marriage, and you were going to be heading back, and not only did he want to get married, but he also wanted to bring his bride back home.
Exactly.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that story here?
Yes. When I was planning, or we're planning the marriage, and I was here and my fiancé was back in Ghana, it was a tough thing to do, to plan a wedding ceremony when you are miles and miles apart. But things went well. We kept talking over Skype, and we kept involving our families in the planning process. And I was also concerned about bringing my wife after we got married to the U.S. And so I had to initiate the visa application process whilst I was here. And it worked out for us because I was also going to renew, my visa was expiring. And so I would have the opportunity to renew it whilst back home because I wanted to go to the embassy with my wife. And it makes things a bit easier because when both of you are there and you're able to argue your case, so to speak, it makes things easier than when you are here and then your wife goes to the embassy. So things worked out well for both of us. We were able to initiate the visa application process whilst I was here, and I got home, we got married, and we went to the embassy for the visa, and within 3 days after our marriage, we got our visas and so to return to the U.S.
How many days or months are the marriage ceremony?
That's an interesting question, Rema. It's I would say the ceremony, we had two ceremonies. So the traditional
Yes.
wedding and then the church wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And the traditional wedding, I would say for ours was a day ceremony.
Mm.
Yes, it started around 9 in the morning and it went through till about 5.
Mm.
It's a merrymaking event, and people get so excited, so happy, bringing two families together. I think that is the core. So we have a lot of people or family members coming from both sides together on that day and celebrating.
Are there a lot of singing and music?
Yes, there is a lot of singing, there is a lot of music, and as I said, it's merrymaking. So people are excited, we sing a lot, there's a lot of drumming and a lot of traditional performances during the occasion, and that happened during our wedding ceremony back in Ghana.
Yeah, one of the things that really impressed me a lot when I was talking with you while you were engaged was how involved your families were and how important the families were in the not just the ceremony itself, but it's really two families coming together. Exactly. And which is quite different. In the United States, we have actually a serious problem with divorce in this country, and which we're not proud of course, but I was surprised that in Ghana, it's really two families, and if the couple has some problems, the families get involved. Is that right?
Exactly. That's right, David. And I think the two families coming together really helps to handle a lot of issues. For instance, I mean, in marriages, these are two different people coming together. So a few issues here and there might rise up. And in certain places that might lead to divorce. But for us, it takes, if something comes up, the two families try as much as possible to resolve issues if that happens. And so, and it goes through the family process before, and then it will go through the church process. So almost always, issues are resolved and they don't lead to divorces back home in Ghana.
Yeah. And so there's a tremendous amount of support that the married couple has as far as not only staying together, but resolving difficulties and establishing a good marriage. And so I think that's just a wonderful thing that our culture certainly can learn from, because we definitely need some help sometimes in this country. Right. And it's good to see also that the church is involved as well in this process.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
The church is really, really involved, and the church will not go, or a pastor will not go ahead to bless a marriage in church unless you've performed the traditional marriage right. And so you need to get that done, and then you can, before you can get the church blessing or the church wedding as well. So you get both sides, family support and the church support as well.
Yeah.
I have a question. Sure. Now, you obviously did interact in the church and liked each other, and you both love the Lord, and so now, how did the two families get together? You initiated, or you told your dad or your brother and somebody, and from someone from their family? How did these two families got together? Okay,
so again, both families are in the same church. So my dad, or my parents, the same church, or my parents and siblings, the same church as Ophelia's parents and siblings. And so when we started going out and started dating, I introduced her to my parents. And then she also introduced me to her parents or her family. So at a point, both families knew we were dating. And then when it got to the point where we wanted to get married, I told my dad, because traditionally it is your parents or your family that goes to ask for the woman's hand in marriage for you. So I had to tell my dad that now I want to get married to Ophelia. And at that point, he knew Ophelia.
Yeah.
And they had established good relationship. And so then my dad also contacted Ophelia's parents, or my parents contacted Ophelia's parents. And then we, as a family, we started planning around the wedding. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask Ophelia was that there's a lot of adjustments in marriage if you stayed in Ghana. But Ophelia, you not only had marital adjustments to deal with, but you also came to the United States, and so you had cultural adjustments and language adjustments, and you also left your job in Ghana, so you had employment adjustments, if you like. How did things go, or what were some of the interesting things or stressful things about your life when you arrived in Champaign-Urbana? When did you arrive? Was it in the middle of the winter?
Oh no, I came I think early fall.
Yeah.
I came in August.
In August, yeah.
Yes.
And as you said, David, I had a lot of things to adjust to it. It was crazy then. Yeah, because initially, even if I was in Ghana, I had to adjust to marriage, and this time it wasn't being in Ghana to adjust to marriage. Just after marriage, I had to move to US and adjusting to a new culture, and then a new weather. Because when I came in fall, I heard people saying, today's weather is so pleasant. I was like, I'm cold. So I told my husband, why? What, do we have different skins? And he was happy with the weather. He was like, yeah, today is good. And I was like, I am cold. Give me a jacket, I'm cold, you know? So I had to adjust to the weather and food. And I'm very particular about the food I eat. Yeah, and the kind of church I attend, because I love my church back home. And he told me, I have a new church here. It's not the church we knew, but it's good.
Yeah.
So I have to adjust to the church also. And I love music, I love singing, I love dancing. So the first thing I asked him about the church was, do they dance? And he was like, oh no, but you get to enjoy it. And those are some of the things I have to adjust to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the food, it's not, we think sometimes that food is just a question of whether you have bacon or eggs and bacon. But the food, there's some food you just can't buy here. Is that right?
There are most things we don't get to buy here. I remember at a particular time I had to call my mom to ship some things to me here. Yeah.
Were they spices or were they?
Like spices and fish and, yeah, mostly fish and spices.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
there are some things we don't get original ones, but we get to improvise, which gives it a good taste. Yeah.
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 Okay. But there's also another adjustment that came along the way. Do you want to tell us about this adjustment?
Yeah.
Actually, it was a big adjustment. Yeah, here, wow. What a special.
Very special.
This is the adjustment. And as a father myself, I can tell you there are a real adjustment.
Yeah. This was the biggest adjustment I had to cope with. Yeah. Getting adjusted to marriage and new culture, new food, new weather. Then suddenly, I had the heartbeat of this young man. Yes, I had to adjust to 9 months of pregnancy, and that wasn't fun at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had actually a difficult time in pregnancy
Yeah.
because of serious morning sickness.
Yeah, very, very serious. And my husband and I say we don't know why it is called morning sickness because mine is all day. It's all day, all morning, all afternoon, all evening, all night. So I don't know why it should be morning sickness. Yeah, and that was very terrible at the beginning. But somewhere after the third trimester, I think things were really working out for me. And
Have you been able to forgive Samuel for the morning sickness? Or?
I'm seeing this beautiful face and how cute he is and how special and loving he is. I think I've forgiven him.
Okay.
Yeah, I've forgiven him. I think I don't mind if he had given me more troubles than I really had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was during the pregnancy period that we had to actually ask Ophelia's mom to ship certain things, certain foods she was craving
Yeah.
for that we couldn't find
Yeah.
here. And
Ah,
so they
wow.
had to buy those things
Yes.
from Ghana and then ship them to us because it was tough. I wasn't finding them, and she said, I want those. And so we had to get in touch with her mom to get us those things.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Abraham, I want to ask, what is your kind of, we don't know the future, what the future has in store, but what would you actually like to do, or where might you be 10 years from now? I mean, assuming you get your PhD and graduate and
Right.
things like that.
As I mentioned to you before coming here, I worked briefly at the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana for 2 years after my bachelor's, and then I came here for my master's and PhD. And I see myself getting my PhD and going back to Ghana to go and do some real good stuff in terms of breeding for better varieties of cocoa. Now we have good varieties, but I want to go and contribute my quota to this breeding effort and try to get better varieties of cocoa. So 5-10 years from now, I see myself in that role. And then beyond that, I want to breed for crops. I just want to breed for crops. So depending on how much progress we make with cocoa breeding, if need be that I go breed for other food crops, I might look at those in the future. But my plan is to go back once I get done with my PhD, go back and then continue with the breeding work that I was doing before coming here.
Yeah.
Have you any plan to make it shorter? Say you will have a cocoa overnight?
Those are some of the things we sometimes talk about. When I was back home in the breeding department, we used to talk about that. But it's really tough. It will be a tough thing. Now, even because it's a tree crop, after reducing the number of years it takes to start bearing to 1.5 years, research has shown that if we go below that, we are not sure how much yield we can get. And so it's something we are still thinking about. Who knows, we might go below that, but overnight, that will be a tight one, really tight.
Well, it's exciting to see how what God might have in store for Abraham and Ophelia in the future. But there's also literally thousands of students, PhD students, undergraduate students who are here, and they're going to be going back around the world in influential positions, and it's just a joy for us who work with ISI to have friends like Abraham and Ophelia and others who will really, hopefully, positively influence the world in the years ahead. Rema, I understand you have, usually this program is a musical program, and were you going to ask our guests to sing us a song?
Yes, because for me and for all of us, Africa is a continent gifted with music, rhythm, and the best voice. And the Lord has a little partiality for Africa with that, and I wish I had a little bit of that. And so, as Ophelia already mentioned, and it's just natural to, like we breathe, it's natural for everyone in Africa to sing. And so therefore, we would like to have something African in the language.
Okay. I'll do a simple one. Yeah. Why granny me nyame na wodo me say Semeje obambowa minto mitiase woni me koma fo kron kron o erade kron kron o erade ah kron kron o erade.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was nice. And Abraham, do you want to just do a little translation there on what that song was about?
So the song was trying to, she was saying, who is God, trying to praise God, who is God, and that
Who am I?
who am I?
Yeah, that God loves me
that
this
God
much.
loves me this much. So
Wow.
praising God, but who am I that God loves me this much?
Wow.
Yes.
And that brings to the point. Did you have any prior contact between David and you before you came here?
No.
No. So that answer the song, the answer is it's God's wonderful gift to you to
Exactly.
have David and
Yeah.
Ruth
Yeah.
come into your life and both ways.
And they have many other friends as well. So
Right.
we're just
Yes.
thankful to be one of their friends. And so
Yeah.
it's wonderful. We're very thankful for our church and our church's outreach to many international students. So, and thank you, Abraham and Ophelia, for being here. I'm glad that Rayma didn't ask me to sing. So that was
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
having
thanks for
us.
having us.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure to
Yeah.
have Abraham, Ophelia, and Samuel. For Samuel.
yeah.
Second Samuel sometime.
No, Friend Samuel.
Yeah, I know.
Samuel.
This is
Yeah.
First Samuel, but Second Samuel sometime later.
Sure.
Without
Yeah.
the morning sickness.
Yay!
All right. Thank you for watching us.